where do you think big schools are going for the automotive thing? I know you had a lot of Teslas in Lincoln Tech, and
how's that program?
Is there
going?
like what's the future of Lincoln Tech? You think?
Yeah,
I'm thinking that they're diversified enough.
Yeah. They'll stay alive.
Do that one. You got some of them guys in the drivability now. Steve Hatch left, sadly.
He was a genius
on there, but management needs to listen to their instructors a lot of times.
Yeah.
On there, so.
As far as getting the students and retaining the students?
No. As far as some of the curriculum.
I see.
So they need to add some stuff. They need to make it so that, because they have a hybrid class.
Yeah.
And is it a CNG class?
Mm-hmm.
But it's for the diesel only.
Sure.
They need to condense the 4 drivability classes and make one that is at least half CNG. And or hybrid.
Right. No, everything's going hybrid.
Hybrid. Electric
that'll
vehicles?
probably at least get it. Well, they're the most complex cars now, and it's like, so you have twice the ability to brake. But there's a weight now on a high level tech right now, because he's got to know both systems really well, I think, and how they talk to each other.
Right. Because one drives the other, essentially, right?
Sure. And also, and there's other weird issues that, because it's still, other than Toyota, I think everybody else is still kind of on the cusp of learning how to make a hybrid great and keep it alive for a while, because it's
and to me, I'm thinking crazy. That electric vehicles, I'm not going to call them a passing fad.
Right.
But they're not going to be as prevalent as everyone thinks.
Right.
Because of the raw materials. There. And everyone, they always go with how green they are. Well, that's fine. But, and I've asked somebody this one because he was harassing me about my Camaro. I said, that's cool. My car's got like a backup camera and stuff like that. And I said, all you can brag about is a backup camera and electric seats in your car, buddy. I'm not really that impressed.
I'm not going to have an argument.
You're a trip to Car Toys to get.
But what does it cost to run that bulldozer to mine the lithium out of a different country?
Well, it's run.
What is that dump truck? I mean, the bulldozer goes through because they're running at wide open throttle on there. Mm-hmm. They're going through
100 gallons an hour or something like that.
60 gallons an hour.
Yeah.
And then the dump truck to get it from the bottom of the mine to the top is pretty much about the same thing. I mean, that's a 71-liter engine.
Yeah.
That turns motors, that drives that thing. So that's part of the problem, the lack of materials. But to me, the hybrid is the best combination of both on there, because Toyota's got this beat hands down.
Yeah.
But
and I wonder, is there a philosophy of saying that, okay, you have a less stressed electrical system and then you have a less stressed engine, internal combustion system too, so maybe they equally have a chance of being reliable.
Of longevity also.
You got to stop and think about this one again. And, not that I want to do a Toyota commercial here on there.
That's all we do.
Toyota has had, historically, some of the best, longest running engines that there are.
Yeah.
Right?
Amen.
Okay. I mean, they were getting 200,000 miles in the 80s.
Yeah.
When with a, I hate to say it, but with a small block Chevy, the mighty 305, something like that, they were, if they could get 80 to 90 before needing an overhaul. So, and they did. But if the Toyota engineers put that much effort into the hybrid part of it as they did the engine design, how could it not last?
Exactly.
And now it's at the age that it's old enough that they had very few flaws to begin with, but once they did, they got them out pretty quickly.
Right away, yeah.
Right, and I mean that Toyota says, we can make 4 or 5 cars. Batteries will. The battery size can be smaller, and instead of putting one big battery in an electric car that has to get a 350-mile range, we can put 5 batteries into hybrids, and have them all usable, or maybe even more than 5. I imagine.
Yeah, something along those lines.
It was something huge, but so they're like going, wait, it's just the efficiency of production And God forbid somebody has practicality and regulation versus somebody who's former bartender or now telling the auto industry how to build cars. It's like, yeah, it's amazing. And so those mandates keep getting pushed back another 5 years of every new car will be electric by 2030. That's obviously not happening anymore. And God bless the power of the dollar, and also the whole industry who knows better now, and fighting back with some lobbyists and maybe even SEMA Action Network too that has fixed that stuff. So
right,
it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like how prevalent or how big were there students that went into Lincoln Tech that were only going to be Tesla guys that never touched internal combustion coming into that school?
They could do it. There was you could right now. I could literally walk up to Tesla and say, I want to do the program. You're going to pay now. What the Lincoln students were getting was, especially the first ones, and I think they might be doing it. If you were hired straight from Lincoln, they paid for your schooling.
Yeah.
Oh.
They put you on payroll and health insurance.
Yeah.
Right away.
Tesla did.
Tesla did.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yes, if you were hired from
crazy.
Lincoln, because they figured you're fresh, you've got this, you got all the should have, and again, it was a test. It wasn't like everyone could do it,
right?
But the better students did it.
But they were Tesla instructors. They were Tesla.
They were Tesla techs. They went to the Tesla school. They went to the Tesla dealerships.
Yeah.
The techs would come to the school.
Yeah.
They're in the old online area.
Yeah, they weren't Lincoln Tech instructors. They were Tesla
these
instructors.
were Tesla. This was all Tesla employees.
Wow.
So
did any other manufacturers do that?
Not there.
Okay. Wow.
And you earlier you talked about trying to get students in. This is going to be a tough thing. People don't want to. I can't say necessarily work, but this is hard work.
Yeah.
You have to study to school, and if you don't study, if you don't do what you really should be doing, then when you get out in the field, you're not going to be able to keep a job because you can't do the work.
And you're not going to like it that much more, and then you're going to not walk away.
So you're looking at guys that are just in the cars.
Yeah.
So really, you just need to get people in the cars in general. I started early. My grandson's 4.5.
Yeah.
He can probably walk around a bunch of people at the
right. Probably could
at the auto show. Yeah,
that's his welding helmet. I got pictures of him sitting here when I'm welding on this.
Oh yeah,
on the little stool right there. That's
okay. Little pacifier marks in the inside of the welding.
Oh no,
helmet.
He's 4.5. He's way beyond that.
I know, but I'm just saying, like he's had it that long, kind of a thing. That's great.
I just got a new helmet when he got into it, and then I kept that one because that one's a really old helmet.
That's great.
And all he can see is this little tiny light, you know. But he's watching me weld.
Yeah.
Is that the little boy that has the John Deere tractor that he can take apart and put together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's great.
When I was, when I was working on the Volkswagen, I took the tranny out, cleaned everything, got ready to put the engine in. The whole time I was working on that car, he was sitting in the car, in and out. He's going up. My wife was out here because it was just him. He's like, "Hey, Mama," because that's what he calls my wife.
Right.
I'm Pops. Hey, Pops. But he's like, "Hey, Mama, I'm going to Starbucks. You want something?" She's like, "Yeah, I'll have an Americana and a milk." And he goes over there and he jumps in his work car, and then he would go over there and he's in there. I can hear the tires going on the floor and stuff like this. And he gets out, "Here you go, Mama," and she goes, "Go, go, go, go," and drinks it. And 10 minutes later, he goes, "Hey, Mama, I'm going to Starbucks. You want something?" He goes, "I'll have an Americano." He goes, "You got that last time. I'll get you a shake."
Great.
This kid, he's under the car on the creeper with me.
So there's still hope. Okay.
Oh yeah, and that's what I tell everyone. He's going to learn how to drive in this one, but the youngest one, this will be his car because this one's going to have a roll bar in it. Because if any of those two are going to need a roll bar, it's going to be that dude.
He's the maniac, right?
He is.
Is he the one that broke his arm or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah. No, he didn't break his arm. My daughter closed it in the door.
Oh.
They went with the Mom of the Year award for that. But they wanted to put, because his hands, kids' hands are so flexible and stuff like that, and they're still growing. They wanted to make sure it grew right, so they put it in a cast.
Oh,
so he didn't break his arm. His mom broke his thumb.
There's a difference.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah, that's the big joke. Oh, no Mom of the Word for you this year.
Well, maybe there's something to it then. Maybe the ones who are into it will, the wheat will be separated from the chaff. That that maybe eventually the school will not have any people who are half-hearted going into it, because
more serious students.
Because maybe it will whittle down to that. Hopefully, it will, because they'll be rarer, those car enthusiasts, and they'll have to be more focused on it to, I guess really just have the love for it above all else, because it's so hard.
And part of the problem you got to deal with is the teachers too. Because I've worked with some teachers, and I'm not going to call them names, even though several come to mind. Mm-hmm. But they used to teach the first class. We used to call it ACD, Applied Career Development, on there. And this is where they got back into the schooling. We're going to do this is automotive math. This is how you measure stuff. This is the micrometer. Yeah. This is how you use a lift. Right. The basic safety stuff, a lot of the basic car designs, because you a lot of times you have people that don't know squat about cars. And so then what would happen is they go over there. This is a 6-week class. Halfway in, that guy's never going to make it. How can you tell? Because I've had terrible students, and then you just hound them hard. Then all of a sudden they come back, and you see them 6 months later, and they're like, "Man, thanks." I failed a guy. Well, I can't say this. That's wrong. A guy failed my engines class, because an instructor never fails a student. He failed my class, and it was his last class.
Okay.
I said, "Dude, you're not here. Look at your attendance." Well, can't you do this one? I said, "Wait a minute here. Why are you coming up? I told you." I said, "You weren't here on the first day," but I said on the first day, I told you, worry about, and I had it on a PowerPoint, and he actually had it, because I used to send it to him. Worry about your grade the first week, not the last week. I can't help you on the last week. This dude's rocking a 45. It's not going to happen.
No.
And he was all mad, and he was down in the office, and he was cursing, and it was, and then they're like, "Well, can't you help this guy out?" And I said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do." Yeah. And I took a lab sheet out that he said he had done. He turned one in, but I know he didn't do it. I said, here's what I want you to do. Okay, after class, you do this lab sheet. And if you can do this lab sheet, I'll pass you. And they went over there, and he's like, "Well, where's the specs?" I said, "Buddy, that's on your computer. You don't have your computer? Well, how are you going to finish those lines?"
Right.
He couldn't do none of the work.
Because each student had a laptop that they got.
Yes, he had a laptop on there. And so he couldn't do none of it. He couldn't find the specs. He couldn't get a reading that was consistent on there. And it's like, dude. And he failed a class, and he came back, and he took it again with me again. And he went over there on the first week. He started screwing up. And I said, "Buddy," I said, "the cool thing?" I said, "If you fail this class again, you cannot be an auto or diesel. So if you fail this class again, have you thought about a career in welding?" He's going to have to switch programs if he wants a diploma. Wow. And he got back, and he turned around, and he came up to me on graduation day, and he's like, "Thanks." Wow. Because you're the only teacher that really held me to task. He goes, "If you look at my grades, I'm rock." He ended up with like a 1.99 GPA, so the computer rounded it up to a 2 so he could actually graduate, But it's
because the dealership, and I've told Greg this too, and now I feel like I can actually say it in front of you. But we had at the Audi dealer and Porsche dealer, we had fresh Lincoln Tech graduates were some of our best car washers. And then they were our worst car washers a week later. But it was so tough to get the guys fresh out of a tech school who had so much education there to make the next step into the dealership being a line tech. And it was, I don't know why it was that way, but we had like 3 in a row like that from Lincoln Tech. And then it was like it had a bad taste in our mouth for a little bit, because we're like going, why would you go to there? Because I was moving up in the dealership. I've never gone to a tech school except for Audi sending me to their programs in-house. And then Audi had their own school out in Golden too. But it was one of those things going through that and then advancing through that, because I didn't want to leave the place, the dealership. I loved every second of it, and I couldn't. And it hurt. And I was buying sandwiches for guys to teach me how to do this A5 suspension, to teach me how to do this or whatever. And I knew every time I asked a question, it's going to cost me another Quiznos sub. But it was so much more than like you have everything laid out in front of you at Lincoln Tech or any other school, and man, if you don't have that motivation or something else, and it has to come down to, I think, love, at the end. I don't know.
Drive.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm ADHD, I think, now. So it's like, I kind of go, there was stuff that I was 100% or 0. I was never, I never saw a B or a C in my life, and it was just, it was A's and F's. And so it was one of those things where I get that with a lot of students and a lot of guys who are mechanically inclined, because it scratches some part in your brain, and you just and that starts hitting you, and you can also see immediate application to what you're doing. So I think when it gets tough, you can't let go of that motivation in yourself, and like you're saying. And I've heard it from so many techs who've come out of UTI, out of Lincoln, out of the successful ones, was you get out what you put into it. And you almost cringe. I've heard it so much, because I'm asking.
Yeah, but that's anything, isn't it?
Maybe, but I don't know if that's. I haven't heard that from dance or art school or anything like that.
You were born to
ballet.
Be a dancer.
I bet you hear the same thing when you hear that with ballet.
From my ballet instructor?
No, yeah. I don't.
No, he said you have a gift.
Let's not digress. Okay.
He said you have a gift. We are no longer training you. You can teach, but we're no longer training you.
No, he said you have a gift. We're going to wrap you up and put you under somebody else's tree, is what he said.
Exactly.
So, and so we're talking about schools, and so I've got a friend. He's an acquaintance. I can't call him a friend, but he's an old acquaintance. He works at a shop called Diesel Ford, or used to. He might be retired. His name is Mike on there. And originally, when I started teaching there, he knew me because I worked in a diesel fuel pump shop.
Yeah.
The ones that are on the Dodge pickup trucks.
Oh, yeah.
And all the other diesels on the old mechanical stuff. Wow. And we were over there, and he's like, I'm having some bad luck with your students. I says, well, what is it? Because I used to hand pick them. He goes, I need a good student. Boom, I would pick them. And those guys stayed there for 15, 20 years. Okay? That kind of stuff.
Okay.
He goes, I'm just getting the guys from them. And he goes, I was having really bad luck with him. So he went to school in Wildtech. So we have always joked about I went to DADC, he went to Wildtech. Right. Just back and forth, that kind of stuff. And so he says, I went back to Wildtech. And he goes, and it was kind of slim pickings. He goes, I finally found this guy. And I had him come down, because the shop's in North Denver, off 58th and I-25, basically. Okay. And he's like, I tell this guy, we sit down, it's the first day, we hire him, he goes, okay, we work from 7 to 3:30 every day, you get a half-hour lunch, we work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Simple.
There. Yeah, he goes, and after that, he goes, after 90 days, you'll get a review, and then we'll go over there and see how you're doing, and he goes, and they did, you got a raise. I mean, you're talking, if they were happy with you after 90 days, you got $1 an hour raise, boom, right then.
That's great.
Okay, started on that check.
Yeah,
on there.
Nice.
So he goes over and he tells this guy this, and all of a sudden, the guy's not doing real good. And so he goes over there and he pulls him in the office. He goes, maybe I didn't make myself clear. Maybe I forgot to tell you. He goes, because I've been forgetting a lot of stuff lately. He goes over the whole thing. 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 7 to 3:30, half-hour lunch. And the guy goes, oh, you were serious? And he started hiring Lincoln Tech students again.
Oh my gosh, dude!
and then he started asking me, I need guys for the drive-in. I can dig one up, And I started kind of feeding them guys a little bit. Yeah. But I used to walk in there. I would take my students there on a field trip. Walk in there, I knew half of the workforce.
Yeah.
Maybe more. The managers were my students from 1990 something.
That's great. Oh, that's such a huge credit. What a great resume to show the other kids.
Right.
Your students. Yeah.
And that's the thing.
That's humongous.
A lot of it is the students. A lot of it is we've already touched on it. You get out what you put in, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But they need to find guys that are either into it or have some interest in it, not the, what do you want to do? You got to do this or I'm going to kick you out of the basement. Okay. Well, you can go to school. Well, I have a car, so I'm going to go to automotive school. There you go.
Right.
Yeah. That's not the guy
That's not the guy.
Yeah. Or gal.
Right. Yeah, this person.
And there's no way to turn them into that guy, you think? Have you ever had a
no, that's not necessarily true.
Some people find the spark once they get to school, but...
Right.
I know. I know. I
And
was just trying to prompt you.
this has to do with the teachers.
Sure.
You've got to engage in the first class. That's like the most important class.
Yes.
And the school used to they'd have ACD. They had a really exciting teacher in the ACD class, which is mostly theory. And then the first thing they do is they put them in basic electrical. So they're in class the whole time, in class the whole time. So they've got 2 classes of nothing but, Ohm's law.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
That's exciting. So this is the problem. So they literally changed it. So they were going from ACD class, the
There's a
intro
moment
class.
that I wish we were on YouTube now. We're filming this. Sorry, Ron. That's hilarious. But yeah.
And put them in gas engines and then automatic transmissions. Let's get a class that have the 2 most labs in them pretty much.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
And this is part of the problem of teaching as far as that part goes. When you've got a guy in a class who can't teach the class,
Yeah.
let me tell you what.
Yeah. You're not going to have any successful students.
I taught gas engines I was teaching diesel engines, and the class was very well organized. I mean, it was like it was a dream to teach. Yeah. Everything was, the lab looked like my garage here, okay?
Yeah. It was a production line, clean, organized.
Right. Mopping the floor every day. So they put me in gas engines. Under part of the premises was I was going to do that. And just the students, like, all of a sudden came alive because I'm doing this teaching for them. It's a whole different, this guy, the one guy, he's like, a guy asked him questions, and he had diesel engines, and the guys used to hate when they had diesel engines with me before they had gas engines. Okay,
right?
Because first off, they could measure, so they would get done early, faster than anybody else, and then they would ask questions. So this guy went over, and he was asking the instructor a question, and he gave him an answer that didn't make sense, and he comes over and asks me, and I didn't know he asked the other guy, and I said, you do it like this. He goes, well, that makes sense, but this guy said that. I said, well, and then it's like, you got to be the teacher. Well, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this, and this is the way I prefer. He just prefers a different method. And then he had the gall to tell the class, that same student, he goes, well, I didn't do a lot of engines, I was a lot of the maintenance stuff like that. So he couldn't answer the questions. He didn't know what he was doing. And then he had the same student had a different class, and his roommate, because they rented rooms out, and you would have roommates from different
student
housing. And he told the next class, there might have been 2, but it wasn't much. He told him, he goes, I've done about 300 engines. This dude walks up and goes, so you didn't do hardly any engines when I had you 2 phases ago, and now you've done 300 engines? Busted.
Call you out.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you've got the instructors, because this is so much of it, because getting a student into the school isn't hard.
Yeah.
Keeping them there and having them graduate, that is the hardest part. Okay. Really it is. So you have to have the teachers, and it's the same scenario. The students would come up and they're working on diesel engines, and I'd walk by and say, that's the wrong number. That's not the right spec.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it is. Really?
Let's do the math.
So go over there, and I go over the whole process. Well, what is it? Go to this page. Yeah. Look for this. Right. Or go here. I never gave them the answer. Good. Go to page 740. Scroll down. Look for this. What size engine you working on? And I grabbed their connecting rod because it had 11.1 on it. Oh, yeah. I said, what size engine you working on? Bam! Slam it down on there. It's 11.1 liter, right, so they can read it. I says, well, you're not working on a 14 liter. You're working on 11.1 liter, so the specs are different.
Wow.
I noticed that with the collision students. They were all hyped up when they got there and they're ready to go. And then the particular instructor they got took all the wind out of their sails.
Yes.
It made it so they dreaded going to class.
It's like that. And this is the hard part, When you're a teacher, if you know the information, that just makes it easier to learn how to be a teacher. Yeah. Because you're standing in front of 30 kids that are, some of them, you can bet a couple of them are going to be overly informed, or they're gonna be smart. Yeah. Some of them aren't going to have a sense of humor. Right. Okay. Which, when you're teaching, you got to be telling jokes. Yeah. You're like a clown up there doing stuff.
You're putting on a show.
And you've got to stand in front of these kids and know what you're talking about.
Right.
Because some of them might test you.
Oh, they will. They'll test you because if they find out you're wrong, boom.
They attack hienas.
So I'll try to torture you only one more time. Okay? There was this guy there, and he told the school that he was a grandmaster ASC. So he had passed all these tests, and I'm a grandmaster. And on the orientation day for new classes, they would parade this guy around like he was, I don't know what. He was just like the sharpest tool in the shed kind of thing.
He's the king of the ASCs.
So, and it was just so funny. Oh, yeah, I got all these ASCs. I've got this and this and this. And like he did the collisions ones. Yeah. It took him 9 times to pass the paint test. Thinking, I got a clock over there. The battery's out of it. It's right twice a day. It can't be that hard to do that, So, anyways, how can this be best? 2 phases down the road, they're in automatic transmissions, and they start asking him questions, and he can't answer them.
Yeah.
And then they find out. So then they're setting him up. So I'm trying to do second gear, so I do this and do this and do this. He goes, yeah, that's right. He goes, no, it's not. You do this and this, okay? So they did this.
Wow.
Sounds bad, doesn't it?
Yeah. The Wizard
2
of Oz,
phases later, the same group of guys have the same instructor covering for somebody else.
Oh, no.
In gas engines.
Okay.
They already had this dude's number. They tore this dude apart.
Good.
I mean, we're talking, he was there for 2 or 3 days. They just ripped that guy. I mean, they tested him and he failed so many times. And then they came to the thing that ASCs don't mean squat.
No.
Yeah.
They don't.
No, they don't.
It shows you could pass the test.
Yeah, we used to get an incentive at the dealership if you could pass, so they could put the sticker on the front of the garage. But it was, it was nothing applied in the test to what we were doing in the shop.
Right.
They give you the badges. We used to call them Cub Scouts.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
We Cub Scouts, yeah.
I know. We have those badges.
Which one's
too.
for camping?
But it was like, it was one of those things too, where what you do as an instructor, it's such a huge thing when you're doing something technical and instructing, because it's. Because you can be judged on both cases of your charisma and also your aptitude of how to do the actual engine building, whatever.
The task.
But the task. Thank you. That's the word. But like, there's so many shops, so many dealerships, so many hot rod shops, everything, anybody automotive. I could find the failure in the shop foreman almost immediately because I go, that's a technician. He's not a teacher. He can't teach a dang thing to anybody. But he's a fantastic technician. And then he got a few years under his belt, and then he got 10 years under his belt being a fantastic technician, topping out. And then they promote him to shop foreman all of a sudden, and everybody hates him. He doesn't want to share his knowledge. He can't share his knowledge. He doesn't have the ability to, unless people are sitting there watching his every move and then becoming him by mirroring him, and he doesn't want you around. So it was so difficult. I remember having those kind of shop foremans, and I loved taking on that role of manager in shops, because I could at least communicate the problem, and then how like you're saying, you're never teaching them or giving them the answers, but you're giving them the
how
steps
to find the answers.
Exactly. And
to
it was
be self-reliant,
But it's such a rare skill that you got, Ron. And I think it's all the kids are worse off for not having you there. I
agree with that one.
And it's funny, not to really toot my own horn, but I would be teaching diesel engines. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I'd have a student come up there, and they're going. He goes, "I was at my work today, yeah." And they're going like, "What they asked what I was in?" And they're like, "Well, I'm in diesel engines. You got Poitier?"
Yeah.
And if they say no,
you're screwed.
It's like
you're screwed.
Yeah. I've done that before. Where I'd be teaching gas engines. And it's just the same thing. You're Poitier? Okay, good.
Oh, good. I'm going to learn something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only, when you taught that class on how to get ratios, that was the only good class I had during my time at Kindig. All my other instructors were. it was
male organs.
Yeah, exactly. It was so tough. Oh, hey, Greg.
Hey, dude.
What's up, dog?
Sorry. No, it was. I'm kidding. It was. Yeah, it was the best school ever. It was so much fun. But it was a blast having you there, Ron, and teaching the dyno class and all that stuff too. It was like immediately fun. Yeah.
Well, and that's the other part. If the instructor is having a hard time.
Yeah.
Because this is my philosophy on it, especially with teaching. If I'm not having fun, you're not having fun. Amen. The class isn't fun.
Absolutely.
So if I can go over there and I can have fun, and but you got to learn your audience, because you can't say the wrong thing to the wrong guy, because they're going to pout. They're not going to come back. They're going to go down and talk to Brian or the boss and something like that. Well, he made this joke, but it's just like, and the automotive industry is very risque on some of the terms that they use.
Yeah.
So when you have girls in the class, then you really got to be careful.
Oh my gosh.
What do they like?
Right. Do they have a sense of humor or not?
Right. And because I've told jokes in class that my wife, they're like, oh, you can't say that in class. Oops.
Yeah.
Cover my mouth. Oops.
I know.
And it's just like, and the girls like, can I use that? I said, it's not my joke.
Yeah.
Say that again. Okay. Say that joke again slowly so I can get it. And you go over there and they'd be like saying it a couple of times just so they could kind of, because the repetitive parts, get it to sink in.
Yeah, I hated it. It was like, it's cliche, but it's like, whenever we had a female mechanic, it was there. We always got in trouble, and so it made it rougher, unless she had a great sense of humor, but because it was impossible to stop yourselves, and it's like this freedom of a crap train that's unloading everywhere and derailing constantly in the shop, and there's 20 techs all doing it, and so it's like, oh my gosh, it was horrible. But usually when there's a female technician who's in the shop and she's been there for a few years, generally she's hot stuff. Like, she knows her thing, because she has a little bit tougher time hanging out with all these wild ass dudes. And so when she's been there a few years, there's respect there.
She's one of the guys.
Well, that, and also she had to overcome other stuff too, to get there. So it's like she really wanted it, and she has to be technically proficient to prove herself.
Right.
Like, I don't ever fear a female pilot or anything like that, because she had to go through all the hard stuff too to get there, and then some. Man, it's true.
Sorry for cursing.
Some of my best students have been females.
Oh yeah, sorry for all the innuendos, guys.
They know that they're up against the wall as far as having to know stuff. So they study better. I mean, I've had students in diesel engines that the only reason these guys pass is because of Julie, the girl that was the captain or the boss of the team. Otherwise, these guys,
they would have failed.
Right, they would have failed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes that is a good try.
Smart. I mean, we're talking that know which end of the wrench to hold. Can get the right wrench on there. Quick. What size wrench does a 3/8 bolt take? Well, 3/8. No, it doesn't. It's 9/16, bozo.
Everybody knows that.
So
the shank is 3/8.
That was the thing. But like Julie, and I had a girl in my class. She had a Camaro, nice Camaro. It had been hopped up a little bit. She's from Wyoming, and we were talking about stuff in class. And I got a letter from her. She just she used me for an example in her business class about instructors. But what happened is that she's like, oh, I want some information on there. Well, I got a lot of books back there, and half of them are performance-based books on there. And she's like, you got a book on drag racing? I said, I got a book on drag racing from the guy, Art Morrison, back in the days on Pro Stock cars. He was, it probably still is, the guy. Pro touring cars are really out of hand now too. I know, what's his name, Jones. I can't remember his first name, but Matt Jones. But he's an engineer, and he designed some stuff. But I went over and I gave her a copy of that thing, and she was just like, oh my God, this is great. I said, read it 3 times. I gave her my business card. Read it 3 times, and then call me if you have any questions.
Right.
I gave her that one. I have a road racing book, because I've been to all these schools. So I gave her a road racing book. She ate that thing up. She was just like, oh my God, can I have this one? No, easy. But let me make you a copy. The book's that thick,
Oh yeah, I've been buying a lot of Vic Elford racing books and sending them off to kids and nephews and stuff too, trying to get them to read them. But so then, who taught you? Who got you into this?
excuse me, my older brother.
Yeah.
He's 10 years older. He's just, he was driving Corvettes. And, the first car that I can remember he had this old, I think it was a Dodge Polara or something like that, with a 413 in it.
Okay.
Black hardtop, 413 on that thing.
One of my picks.
Amen.
Yeah. Woodward, race up and down Woodward all the time, Telegraph, all those streets that were down there, and then he owned he had a 65 Corvette that came with a 396, and Al's father seemed to have found a 427 that they put into it. Al had a 71 Corvette with a 427 in it. So that hanging around that, the guy down the street had a Plymouth Superbird.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what I was around, and my sister-in-law, when I met her,
she had a Baja?
65 Beetle. No, just a 65 Beetle.
Yeah.
And so, it was just, that's what I was around. All the neighbors.
Yeah.
I've always been pretty good with cars. So I fixed lawnmowers. I fixed some mini bikes when I was younger. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
it was natural.
That's just kind of. My brother. He's 10 years older. They're rebuilding after they got the camshaft and the intake and the carb from Mr. Dyka. What happened was, I'm sure the process, the lost limitations and statutes.
Yeah, statutes are run out. Yeah,
but
allegedly. This happened.
But Mr. Dyke got on this stuff, so they took the engine apart, freshened it up, hone it, rings, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And there I am in the garage. Hey, gas. Here's a jar of gas. Okay? Right. Here's a toothbrush.
Clean it.
Clean these bolts.
Right,
dude.
That's what I'm doing.
I got to hang out with my older brother.
Right.
He's 10 years older. He's 18. I'm 8, he's 20, I'm 10. It's like he wants to hang out with me normally, but he let me out in the garage, and then I got to go for rides.
Oh my God! That if that doesn't give you the bug right there, going for a ride in one of those beasts.
Yeah,
that's the darn Garlitz thing too. The gasoline's for cleaning, alcohol's for drinking, and nitromethane's for racing.
Yeah, exactly.
So then, what about the instructing, the actual teaching part? Was that more of a nature thing? Did you?
No, I took in high school. I'm what they call a charter member. So they opened up I took auto shop or small engine repair in the first high school that I went to, and then they built this brand new high school. I was the first guy not the first guy, but the first class to graduate out of it. Yeah. And so I took the auto shop, brand new auto shop, alignment racks, all this stuff over there. I took this class.
Okay.
And then I took it again the next year. And the instructor goes over there, we're going to be doing, I said, this is the same stuff I did last year. And he's like, well, yeah, but, the practice won't hurt. And it's just like, well, test me. I went over there on the first day of class and aligned a car.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, I remember how to do this stuff. Why am I taking this class? I'm going to do the exact same thing. Right. So I literally contested him.
Okay.
And so what happened is that 50% of the stuff that I did in that class had to be new.
Okay.
So I had to fight for my right to get more information on there, and that's what I did.
That would be a built-in empathy for when you're getting that from a student later. I imagine that you got a challenge on my because the only way
for it.
You can be.
And this used to make so many of the instructors mad. It's like, okay, challenge us.
Yeah.
Challenge me. Just when you're going to ask a question, well thought out.
Okay.
You don't curse at us. You do the question on do the research on it.
Yeah. Huh. Make it valid.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I used to tell them the same thing with the school. At students. Well, I looked at Wild Tech. Well, you know what? Compare them. You compare Wild Tech to Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Do you know what? Do UTI.
Right. Do diligence and find out.
Check it out. I said, I will stand behind my school. And I would tell them, you plan on working in a small block Chevy? No, I'm an import guy. Well, then when you go to UTI, you're going to be taking, your engine class will be a small block Chevy. I have a dual overhead cam engine over here. I'm not a big Dodge guy, buddy. It's a dual overhead cam. Yeah. You think there's a lot of difference between that and your Honda?
No.
I don't think so.
Audi engines are Hemis. They're hemispherical heads.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Subaru's a bunch of them are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's what I would do. And it's the same thing. I said, challenge them. Yeah. And some of the instructors would be like, did you tell me to challenge the students to challenge us? I said, yeah, to ask a question. Well, they should be willing to ask a question.
Yeah.
Mr. Poitier, that answer doesn't sound right. Well, cool. I'll tell you what. Here's what's going to happen. I want you to see what you can find tonight, and then I'm going to show you. If they didn't do it, I said, well, what'd you find? Well, I was working. I said, well, then okay, then I just move right on.
Yeah.
Well, what's this one? Well, dude, you didn't do your part.
Right.
You want to do it again tomorrow?
So
you know,
good.
and I write it on the board. And and some of the instructors were just
is huge.
And I say that it's just some of the instructors were so focused on their stuff that they just you couldn't ask a question that wasn't pertaining to the actual lesson plan right then. And what I used to do when I did gas engines, it'd be like, okay, ask me any question you want. And we're talking something. I says, well, you know what? How about if we wait until the third week to do that? I said, so here's what I'm going to do. And I would write on the side of the board, cylinder head flow.
Right.
Turbos.
Yeah.
Right.
Carbs. Because carbs were in gas engines.
Yeah.
Turbos aren't in gas engines. I mean, as far as the curriculum, those are in the drivability classes. Well, I had drivability. It doesn't make any sense to me. Turbos. And at the end of the phase, okay, let's go over turbos. And I had a PowerPoint on turbos. This is what the AR ratio is.
Yeah.
This is what this means. This is what you're going to, how to size them. Go to the internet. It's a wonderful thing. Go over there. Look at this information right here. If you go to this spot, you talk about cylinder heads, Okay, we need to match the airflow to the camshaft to all this stuff. All the stuff has got to be matched together on there. Wouldn't it be nice if there was like a place we could find this out, and we had a flow bench in the back.
Yeah.
So I'd go over there and I would have it open. And I go, look at this website. Click, and it's still there, Stan Weiss. I click on that thing, and they, what kind of engine you got? And, this is at the end of the class, because heads were last.
Right.
I said, oh, you're a motorcycle guy, and Harley. And I scroll down there, he's got Harley numbers. He's got, I said, where's them twisted guys? Where do you get, some of this stuff? Where's the Volkswagens or something like that? So we go over there, and it's all listed on that thing.
Yeah. Dang.
And I said, so now, what questions should you be asking me? And they're all like, I said, really? No question immediately pops to your head? And the guy that's in the back, all of a sudden goes, what's the website page? Excuse me, bingo, that's what you should be doing.
That's good.
They go over there, and I would tell them, and they would look it up, and I said, save that.
Okay, that's great. Gosh.
Boost.
Everything, when you're teaching, because these kids are an internet group. I always thought it was funny. Jen would go, these students, and everyone, Kelly, these students are the most internet savvy. I says, yeah, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram does not make you does not make you
savvy.
Computer savvy.
No.
Okay, it makes you social media savvy.
Sure.
That's it.
Yeah. Also, subscribe to the Gail Banks YouTube channel. I'd say too.
We've had issues in the past.
Have you?
Yes.
Oh, because some student said, I found this on Gail Banks YouTube, or what? Or did he directly?
Ron probably directed Gail Banks on something.
Did you really? Oh.
Remember when he first came out with the
I love it.
With the 6.2 turbo kit?
The bully dog thing?
No. General Motors in the mid-'80s made a 6.2 diesel they put in pickup trucks naturally aspirated.
Oh, that thing was horrible, yeah.
Okay, and so he made a turbo kit for it.
Right.
And he told my boss that there's no... I can't get enough fuel. I can't put too much fuel into this engine. So I went over there and I hopped this fuel pump up, and it filled the shop up with smoke, and they were just like, I was ruining his engine. And I said, well, I went up to here and I backed it down, and then I went over, I took a stock pump, put it on there, I gave it a quarter turn, and I says, well, what percentage are you looking for? So I did, and if you look in the instructions on how to do it, it says a quarter turn. That was me. It was just like the Gene came over and he was like mad. What did you do to this thing? This thing is like billowing out black smoke over there, and it's just like my boss and the guy that ran, because
I love it.
the boss bought a building across the street in beautiful South El Monte, California.
Yeah.
He bought this shop and they put a dyno in there. It was called Diesel Dyno Tune on there, and that's where I learned how to run the dyno on doing that stuff. But it filled the shop up, and it was just like, wait a minute, what was I told?
Yeah.
And I said, man, you were throwing around the gauntlet. I thought you wanted a lot of fuel.
Yeah.
This is not that much fuel.
I gave you a lot, but not a whole lot.
Right. I literally had to take the pump apart and change a part on the inside. That's what that's what you're building that pump. Okay. Stop right here, take it off, put this on, set this dimension to this.
Right. And you did it, and then it's
Well, I didn't do the building of the pump. I had somebody else because I was running the machine. I used to run a department of like 7 people.
Oh.
And so I would order the parts. I would train everybody.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I would do that kind of thing.
Right.
And so a guy's building a pump. And I said, okay, John, go back over there, get a 7-3 leaf spring, and put it on this pump, and set the roller to pick a number, kind of thing. And it wasn't even maxed out. I could have gave it more fuel.
Yeah. Holy shit!
Yeah, So it was. Everyone was mad at me for like 2 days.
And then they went to go sell 1 billion of those kits to the military on every Hummer in the world.
And then it was funny because the boss would come over and he'd say, "I need a pump." Well, who's it for? Okay, this is what he's doing. And the boss, then the manager, Gene, he got mad. He goes, "It doesn't matter who it's for."
What kind of does?
I said, so, okay, it doesn't matter. And I looked at him, I said, so, quick, Jones Chevrolet, how do their pumps go? Are they picking them up or are we mailing them out? And are we going out UPS or are they going out the bus? This company here, what do they do? And he's like, well, I don't know. I said, yeah. And I went down the list. These are my customers. This guy picks it up. It's going to be on will call. This guy goes out at UPS. UPS got there at 4 o'clock after I left. So I could do the other pumps for the people that were local and then the ones that got shipped. And he's like, oh. I said, so let's try this again.
Who's it for?
What do you need? I need a pump. What model do you need? Okay. How's it going? So is this UPS? And so then they would come back and say, I need this model of pump for UPS. Bingo.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's like, well, how do you know that one? I said, how do I know all these damn part numbers? I could like peel the part numbers off my head.
Dang, buddy.
24-370, that's a gasket kit. The 24-369, that was the industrial one. I mean,
man, I wish you said that at the beginning of this podcast. Somebody had to listen to the whole
thing just to get that part number. Sorry. My bad.
We'll put it in the notes underneath in the description.
But so good. But that's what it was, you know?
For sure.
Because he couldn't fathom that, because he was kind of like at that time the service manager. He was setting up that shop. He was trying to do this one, and it's just like he doesn't know squat. But I've got all this stuff in my head. And he's asking, because I didn't stop to think, is it going out UPS or is it going out this way? I knew which companies did what.
Right.
And that was what
and you're teaching him how to give you the right information.
Because the boss was mad. The boss is like, oh, you're watching the clock, and I'd be over there working on a pump, and I've got my hands inside a pump, and I can't see what they're doing. So we're talking Braille bolt installation.
Right.
And I didn't realize it, but I'm like this. I'm looking up, and the clock's right there. So I'm just kind of, I'm trying to visualize in my eyes what it looks like inside of there. Because I can't see because they weren't fat, but my hands were in there. And, that's what I'm doing. So I'm visualizing and not even thinking about it. I'm looking at the clock. And he goes, and you got to work faster. I said, well, man, you got to work like this dude over here. Well, you know what? Why don't you go ask him? Because we need the same tools all the time, the special tools. We need the same special tools all the time. So I am keeping up with him.
Yeah.
It's just like he was always trying to, I don't know if he just didn't like me or what it was, but it was like every time he tried to do something, I would just go over there and just nonchalantly say, this is what I'm doing. The boss did that one time. I was doing Caterpillar pumps, for 3208. So it's like, you need to go faster. Well, I am working on the counter, and I am ordering parts,
Right.
But this pump pays 8 hours, and I'm doing it in 4.5. From taking it off the bench to having it hanging up painted.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm doing that one, and you probably do pretty good. I'm just a bit of a smart aleck.
I wish
He
you
goes,
told us at the
you need to do
beginning.
these faster. I said, you know what? Why don't you bring your toolbox down here and show me how to do this faster?
Right.
Yeah.
And he took the challenge.
Did he? Great.
I said, you can't use my tools because you're going to slow me down. So bring your toolbox down here. Bring a toolbox, And I told him the tools that he's going to need. So he brought all this stuff. I said, you can use my torque wrench and stuff like that. But I went over there, and he's like, just to disassemble it, I beat him by like an hour and a half.
Okay.
And he's like, well, there you go. I said, well, cool. What parts are bad? He goes, well, I don't know. I said, well, I know. I can tell you my parts. You want the part numbers? Off the top of my head. Caterpillar, 6N, 7348. It's like he's over there, and it's like, I need these parts. So it took you 2 hours longer to take it apart.
Right.
I've inspected it. I know what I need, and I know the part numbers. And look, I've already got them written down on the work order.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he did that for 2 days. And
it's so good if you could demonstrate how effective you are to somebody, that.
And at that point right there, he was just like, okay, I'm taking my toolbox home.
Yeah. I got promotions when I worked on the boss's car. I loved it because it was always, how it is. It's like because you solve a problem that he's experiencing all the time or whatever. You demonstrate it to it. Yeah.
But sometimes it just takes the fresh eyes to do that. But that's different.
So I used to work at a place not too far from here.
Yeah.
Over by Cinderella City, a little diesel fuel pump shop, tiny one. They had a little drive-in thing.
Yeah.
And the boss's wife brought in a Corvette. The battery keeps going dead.
There you go.
Keeps going dead. And our lead tech, this guy's great. He'll fix this in no time. He couldn't fix that thing. That car, they went through batteries. And then it's just like, he's like, well, I'm tired of working that car. He goes, but it needs an oil change. Can you go change the oil? So I go over and I dropped the pan on there, and I said, the hood's closed. I said, the light's on, so
Yeah.
when the hood's closed. So I went in there, and it didn't take that long to fix.
Right.
Just shorted the ground on there.
Yeah.
Went over and fixed that thing, and I said, and I fixed the battery issue too.
Yeah.
What was wrong with it? Well, remember when I asked for some help and you wouldn't tell me?
Gosh.
Right back at you.
Have a nice day, buddy.
And it was just funny.
Wow, Ron. Well, you're the smartest guy in the room again.
Still
Demonstrated over and over again to thousands of students, and even even your bosses at the time. But yeah, it was great. It was great learning from you too. And man, thanks for coming on the podcast. It's a huge joy having you here. And what are you up to now? I mean, you got Volkswagens, you got Camaros. What's your just get to play on your own hobbies? Or are you gonna? Or is every kid who just drives by on a bicycle, you say, hey, let me teach you something?
No, I fixed Zoe's bike.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I told Zoe, the neighbor across the street, that I would teach her how to drive because her dad had a motorcycle and he crashed on the corner.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he dropped it, hit a car. I said, so yeah, your dad's not going to, so you'll learn how to drive a stick in the Volkswagen.
There we go.
But with two Volkswagens, this one here obviously needs just a little bit more work.
Just a little.
But, it'll just be a matter of, because my wife was, like, you're not going to work in a Baja Buck anymore. I said, yeah. I said, once I get the 68 running, once I get Mouse running, then it'll be like 4 or 5 days on the Baja, 1 day on Mouse.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And I'll do that one. And she goes, 5 days on the Baja and 1 day on Mouse is 6 days. What are you doing the last day? And what are you doing the last? I said, car show. When I said 4 to 5 days, if there's 2 car shows on the weekend that I really want to go to, I'm going to 2 of them.
Right.
She was like, okay.
As long as you don't get grounded.
Yeah. My wife, I love her, but she's like, everyone asks, well, you're good with him having like these car projects? She goes, if he didn't have them, then he'd be in the house the whole time.
Yeah.
And one of us would be dead, and it would be him. She goes, no, I do not want him hanging around the house.
Right.
Him being in the garage is just perfectly fine with me.
Dude, I love the wheels and tires on the Baja. Those things are sick right there.
I painted them silver. They came white.
They're awesome.
It's beautiful.
It was a 4-lug. I went to a 5-lug.
Yeah.
I think it looks tougher.
It does. Much better.
I'm 66. I'm thinking it didn't cost that much. Just new brakes all the way, new drums all the way around.
Right.
I studded them.
That's badass.
I studded the 68. So I have a friend, Sugar. His name is Dave.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen him recently, but he got rid of a '68 blue Carmagia convertible.
Ooh.
And he had a set of drums and rotors that were set up for the five lug Fouche wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah. He told me that he used to have a pair of those.
Right.
You know, or he had a pair of those.
Yeah.
So, but he didn't want none of that stuff.
Yeah.
So again, I got acquired these rotors and stuff, and they had studs in them. So I took the studs out of there and put them in there.
Yeah.
I like your floor jack.
My
Did you
my
get
mom's
get a good look at that bad
It's a
boy?
good
my
floor
mom
jack,
lost a
dude.
wheel on the highway from
It's
a
nice. It's practically brand new.
Dude, that thing is sick. I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
Matco tool. Low.
Where's the shrinker stretcher?
It's in the shed.
Nice.
So here I'm walking. I'm wounded.
See the handle?
Hey,
Oh, that it's
I was sponsored.
Sponsored.
Kindig
He
design.
doesn't know it.
Oh, that's right. I see what you mean. Yeah, that
Ryan
happens.
gave it to me.
Golly, that's hilarious. Yeah, that was a good class too. Well, thanks, Ron.
Yeah, that's
welcome.
right.
That's huge. It's a big deal. Thanks for talking to us and regaling us with awesome stories, but also good advice.
Man, I'm a teacher. I could tell you some stories that would just. What do you want? And not that we're going to do it, but you want dino stories. You want, classroom story, gas engines teacher. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the stories that I could tell you.
I do. Let's do another episode.
After
man.
30 years, I'm sure.
Oh,
Awesome.
jeez.
Okay, well, thanks. We'll stop it there, and then a little teaser for maybe next time. We got to come back. So,
Right.
Thanks again, Ron. This
Thanks
is
a lot,
awesome.
Ron. Good
You're
to talk to
welcome,
you.
guys. It was fun.